Ladies and gentlemen, some huge news on the Habs front. Nick Suzuki has been named the 31st NHL captain of the Montreal Canadiens. We are the No Respect Podcast. My name is Mackie. Join alongside me is Justin. We're missing Alex, but we're here to talk about this big news today. It's been a while for us. We've got a bunch of questions that we want to cover when it comes to the big news, but let's get your initial reaction here on this news, Justin. What are you feeling? Nick Suzuki is the captain of the Montreal Canadiens.
I'm excited. I think he's the heart and soul of the Habs. He's been that and he's been the most consistent player for the last couple of years. So I think he's the perfect fit. He's a young captain, and he's the perfect guy to captain this young up and coming team.
Yeah, you bring up some excellent points that we will get into. So the first one is obviously the reaction from the fans, which we will do, and some of the shots that are taken by on Vegas, I should say. And then after that, how does Gallagher feel? Where do you rank Nick Suzuki in this whole in the organization and the history of Montreal Canadiens captains? We're going to cover all of those things. So stick with us. But let's start there. The reaction to the news seems overwhelmingly positive, with obvious questions, like we said, about Gallagher. But looking through the announcement on Instagram, we're looking at a lot of positivity, a lot of likes, a lot of juice for our boy Big Nick. And honestly, on my side, I think this fits the bill when it comes to what we're trying to accomplish as an organization, the reset, the restructuring of this, the foundation of what is the Montreal Canadiens. And a huge part of this, I believe, has to do in part with Jeff Gordon and, of course, our new GM, Kent Hughes. What do you think about that?
Yeah, for sure. I think they went for the move of naming a captain. They didn't necessarily need to, since the team is kind of still in the rebuild. They could have gone this year without a captain, but I think they just wanted to cement that this is the new era of the Habs, new management, new coach, new captain, and we're on a different path. We're on a new upward trajectory. So I think I love the move. I will see if it pans out, if Nick Suzuki can be the kind of captain that we believe he can be. But that's to be determined, I guess.
Yeah, it's the thing. The thing too is that he's so young, and if you guys don't know, Nick Suzuki is the youngest captain to be named in the Montreal Canadiens organization at the fine age of what? What age is Nick Suzuki now? 23?
He's 22, I believe.
22. God damn it. He's accomplished so much
23.
in so little
23,
time. 23. Okay, perfect. But still, the youngest captain before that was actually Saku Koivu, who was time captain. Obviously there's been a huge discussion about retiring that number. The decision was not to do so, but we all know the grandeur and the stature that stayed with the legacy of Saku Koivu. It's too early to project if Nick Suzuki can come there, but we will try to answer that question later down the line in this video. But it does, for me, symbolize what we're talking about is, in comparison to Shea Weber, who is also a great captain from NHL wide recognition standpoint, everybody talking about him being a fantastic leader, just having that presence. There's an additional pressure that comes with Nick Suzuki. However, the context of the Montreal Canadiens is completely different because they're in that rebuild, which I think makes sense. And like a good example is, I guess, the Sens, right? Which, when it comes to Brady Tkachuk was named captain, some people are not a fan of that player nor the contract that went with it, but it's kind of a similar context, if I have to say, because we're looking at a team that's in rebuild mode, that's looking for the face of the franchise. Obviously, with the news of Carey Price no longer, at least it's been implied that he will not be playing this season, nor so for the remainder of his career. And you're looking for somebody to carry that torch, and they're choosing Nick Suzuki. So do you feel like, in comparison to a Shea Weber, that it's going to be difficult for Nick Suzuki to command the same respect, or because the context of the Montreal Canadiens is different, it's going to be an easier step for him to take?
Obviously, Shea Weber is leaving massive shoes to fill, both figuratively and literally. So, I don't think we can expect the same type of captain right away in Nick Suzuki. But one thing that I think Nick Suzuki does so well is he leads by example. And I can probably count on my hand how many times he's had a really bad game that I can remember. He seems to always be consistent, at least in his kind of all around game. And I can't say how he is in the locker room, but the fact that he kind of can lead by example at least and score those big goals in big moments and get points and produce is just a good start to being a captain at least. And then he's going to kind of develop those leadership skills with the players like Brendan Gallagher and Joel Edmondson, and also like the Paul Byrons, the other veterans on the team that are going to help him and help lead this team and help develop him into the leader that he can be. And we can't forget that he was also a captain in the OHL, and
Mhm.
I believe in junior well, and before that as well. So I mean, he has the leadership experience. It's just kind of translating it to the big show.
Yeah. And this is where it leads into the second juicy question here. I don't know what question we're at, but let's say it's the second one here. Brendan Gallagher not being named captain. He has the track record, obviously, of being the heart and soul of the Montreal Canadiens. Gally snubbed is one of the comments, like question marks, and they're valid question marks because Brendan Gallagher has been with this team for so long and has carried that logo so proudly as being the workhorse, obviously coming off a very, very bad season in terms of statistical performance. But what do you think there? What does this mean for Brendan Gallagher? Does it translate to anything else in terms of, is this player being moved for sure because of it? Or do you think he's the type of guy that can learn to live with it and continue on?
I really think he's the type of player that and type of person that would be able to live with it. If I mean, I think the bigger question for Gally is I think he wants to win, and if the Habs are going to take like 2, 3, 4 years to rebuild and actually be a contender, that's where I might see him wanting to maybe look for a cup and trying to get a cup before he retires. But in terms of leadership, I think Gally's always been someone who's I think he's very selfless, and I think in the leadership role he's like that as well. And I don't think he's going to take it to heart that, oh, I wasn't named captain. I think it would have been risky to name him as captain and then have him kind of, if he underperformed again. Well, I mean, it's because of injuries, let's be honest. But if he underperformed this year, then it's like, what is management doing? Like, we're putting a guy who can't produce to a high level as captain. So I think Nick Suzuki was the right choice. I think Gally knows that it's the right choice as well. But it's to see if Gally is maybe in the back behind the scenes, if he's kind of wishing that he would have been captain. Maybe there's potential that he might want to leave the team, but I don't see that.
Yeah, I think the only thing that I would say is that it might send the message that, obviously, and it makes sense, is that the priority is the youth, and they're going with a player that obviously consistently has been improving, and hopefully he's going to take that same type of performance on ice and bring that to the type of leadership that you're expecting from a Montreal Canadiens captain. And all we know, if you're a Habs fan, if you're not a Habs fan, and you should know this, is that a captain is in this city is very important in terms of your community efforts. It's like hockey is religion here. Everybody who's a Habs fan knows that, and I've already seen we've seen it, and you see in the work that's been done in terms of participating in those events and making sure to give back to the community. Is that Nick Suzuki has always been there. He has never shied away from that. One of his announcement video was done in French, even though he's struggling to build the sentence. But these are the types of things that are super important in this market as Montreal Canadiens fans. So I agree with you that Gallagher, in terms of being the type of guy that can live with it, I do think, though, that it does send a message that obviously they're ready to move on from maybe him being part of this team in the long run. And obviously the question of his contract comes into play. We can't even get into that, but without his performance increasing, that's going to be a tough one to shed. So let's get into the last question of this. And of course, at this stage, please leave a comment on what you think, or your reaction, I should say, of this announcement and Nick Suzuki over Gallagher. Do you think anybody else should have been the captain? Be definitely curious to see your responses on that. And of course, liking, subscribing goes a long way for the channel. But the final question, of course, and this is a difficult one. And if you can, try to project yourself in the future of what Nick Suzuki being a captain is, where do you see him falling? And I want to do a scale where it's like Jean Béliveau, the greatest captain of all time in terms of stature, performance, all of those things, all the way down to maybe Max Pacioretty, who told him, let's not get into Max Pacioretty. No disrespect to him, but he was traded for future considerations. Let's not get into it. So, where do you see Nick Suzuki, his profile, if you could do a prospect kind of projection on him being captain, where do you see him go?
I mean, the hardest question to answer. Like, it's hard to project. First of all, a player in terms of stats, like a young player like him. It's even harder to project how his leadership capabilities will be in the future. But I mean, I see him as a type of glue guy in a locker room that you can build a team around. So I mean, if playing wise he can continue that kind of trajectory, then I think for sure as a captain he can lead that same way. So I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to put him into the historical
Yeah, I know.
figures of this
That's the point.
franchise. But I mean, I think he'll be somewhere in the middle. If he can win a cup with the Habs, then he's going to be shooting towards the top.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. That's for sure. I would definitely say he's edging much more towards the Jean Béliveau side than the Max Pacioretty side. I'll start there. But what I will say is too, in terms of how he represents himself for now. Obviously, things can change, but the way that he represents the organization, the fact that he's 22 years of age and was able to do what he did in, not only the bubble, but also the playoff runs and consistently get better. It's the perfect mix of somebody that's going to represent this organization from a community standpoint on a positive level, also be the type of performance that you expect from a captain too, because you don't want like the what's his name, Andy Green on like the New Jersey Devils. I think he was a captain for a while. I could be completely wrong here, but it's not like a no-name player that's just recognized for the character. It's a perfect mix of the performance on ice plus the community standpoint that I think that Nick Suzuki fits the bill. And if I were to make a comparison to another young captain, I'm not going to say it's the same type of player, but Gabriel Landeskog is one of those guys that was, at 19 years of age. He was the youngest captain, I think, in the NHL to be ever named. But that type of build of representing the franchise, I think, is so important symbolically for this market. And I think that just the question of making sure that he's putting in the efforts to learn French, all of those things are very specific to Montreal, but I think he's the type of guy that's going to do that. So I'm looking forward to it, man, and seeing how maybe this is going to bump up his performance starting this year.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone has high hopes for Suzuki in his career even before this. Like, it was I still do. Like, I think he's going to be our 1C for years to come, and this is just like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, we shall see. But on that note, that's it for today's video. Just a quick update on us. I know it's been a while for those of you who've been paying attention. It's been a whirlwind for us in terms of this summer. We're happy to be back, and we'll be, posting as much as we can. Really looking forward to this Montreal Canadiens new season, new look, Slavkovsky, Kirby Dach. I mean, God damn it, it's going to be different, but it's going to be beautiful. So you've joined us, the No Respect Podcast. If you want to join us on our Discord servers, follow all of our social media channels. We have it in the link below. But if not, we always remind you to respect the
Orgasm Nation.
We shall see you in the next one. Go Habs, go, baby.